Many of us can recall the good old days blowing on our game cartridges and popping them in, slapping on that power button, and the rest was just pure magic from there. If there was anything to be said about gaming back then, it could be summed up as this. Balls hard! Limitations of hardware and software were something developers had to work around in those days. 13 floppy disks! Those limitations often affected the length that a game could be. So what would developers do? What could they do to increase the longevity of their game? DLC! No! They'd create a game that was hard as hell, and not always in fair ways, but challenging enough to give the player a lasting value. Great times they were indeed. What I'm trying to say here is, yes, games were far more difficult back then. And before you try and tell me that I have rose-tinted glasses, I'll present to you why this is true. Gamers were just the fucking coolest kids back then. They got all the girls, had the most friends, and were somebody everyone wanted to be. Oh my kidding. Truth is, if you were a gamer back in the day, you kind of had to be low-key about it. Games weren't accepted as a casual hobby for everyone. It was for the geeks and nerds. The good news is that's not the same case today. With gaming's popularity being higher now than it's ever been, gamers are no longer subjected to a specific group. You got gaming athletes, YouTube celebrities, and gaming porn stars. It's nuts! Gaming is now seen as more than just acceptable. It's an embraced hobby worldwide. And you know, that's pretty awesome, but not entirely awesome. With games becoming extremely popular, the consumer number grows, meaning more sales. I'm not against developers making big bucks for their hard work. How dare they make money? The problem comes when developers decide to make their games more accessible, and these great games start to become an empty shell of what they once were. What I mean by that is, how can I say it? They're fucking casualized. And no, I don't mean that in a way that I hate these games because they become popular. I mean, I hate them because they become stripped of the elements that made them great in the first place in order to reach a certain demographic. And one of those stripped elements being the difficulty. See, what I don't get is that developers knew they had a large market that consisted of mainly kids back then. Yet knowing this, they still made hard-ass games. But then, why do they decide now to make games easy as hell? Is it cause kids are stupider? I don't know, probably. Okay, no. Ask anyone. When I was a kid, I was pretty retarded myself. Yet I was playing things like Bard's Tale and I was having the time of my life, even if it made me drive my head through a wall. So if devs knew kids were playing these hard games, why'd they decide to streamline the difficulty? Well, part of the reason is because devs kind of had an idea of what type of kids were playing their games. But now that gaming's a lot more popular, devs see an opportunity to appeal to more than that specific group of kids. But listen devs, listen. By making games idiot-proof, not only are you holding back that game's true potential, but you've also insulted the intelligence of the player. And I'm not even making shit up. Like, check this out. In Morrowind, from the beginning, you're not given specific instructions or directions. Right off the ship, the world is open and given to you. But quests, weapons, combat, oh god, chill. It's all there. You just have to find it and figure it out for yourself. The system is difficult at first, requiring you to talk to NPCs and read and pay attention to details, ask questions, and learn more about each character. Upon doing that, the customization and combat is something you yourself have to learn. You can't just approach every enemy and kill them at your leisure. Doing so will get your ass kicked. The game made you think twice about what you would say to an NPC or what you would do when approaching a situation. Sure, it's a steep learning curve, and it's fucking hard, but the payoff feels real and earned. Oh, but think of the children. They don't want to read. They don't want to learn complex mechanics. They just want pew, pew, pew. So what can we do? I hate having to say this because I actually do like Skyrim, but let's get something straight here. Skyrim is the result of a great series being casualized to the point of losing any form of challenge that its predecessors were known for. Remember how you had to do all that pesky reading and pay attention so you knew what to do and understood the significance of a quest? Well, fear no more. I present to you the quest marker. No longer were you required to figure things out yourself in a challenging way. Just follow this arrow right here and that's all. No challenge here. Don't worry, Jimmy. Oh, and that difficult combat system? Tsk, don't worry. You can hit anything as long as you're high level. There's no need to have a challenge here. But Frito, There's nothing wrong with a casual game. All people want to do is have a little fun. Well, I can't argue what's fun or what isn't. That's all subjective. But what I can say is this. Say I was to give you a puzzle, a nice challenging puzzle that required you to work hard at it. But then I think to myself, oh gee, if I just take this part out, it'll make the puzzle less difficult so that it can be more fun. But wait. If I take this out too, the puzzle can be solved faster as well. Eventually, you reach a point where it ceases to be a puzzle anymore, and I get it, I do. Devs want to sell more. I know you may think, hard games don't sell. Don't give me that bullshit. There's a greater sense of joy and accomplishment when completing a quest in Morrowind, and that joy and sense of fun comes from the fact that there was a compelling challenge behind it. You're not given some special treatment in the game's world because you're the player. No, you're made just as vulnerable as everyone else, but you can get stronger. You can accomplish great feats, but you have to go through the challenge to get there, and it feels far more earned. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Skyrim. In Skyrim, for the sake of selling and making more money, you're made the hero right from the beginning. It's like being a normal guy put into a race with handicapped people. Sure, you win, but it's not because you're something special or unique, and the win doesn't feel earned, it feels given. This is the feeling I get from most modern games today, and it is a problem. What this does is creates a feeling of entitlement for a younger audience or for future gamers. They grew up around games that are specifically made for them to win. It makes them feel like a winner and say what you want, but getting from point A to point B with assistance doesn't make you a winner. And this does affect the direction in which games go. Now you'll have companies seeing these streamlined games selling big and thinking, oh gee, see, that's what sells right there, that easy stuff. Now obviously you can't just program every game to rape everyone. Well, just add difficulty levels. Even that's something developers fuck up too. Uncharted 4? Game seem too easy? Just turn up the difficulty. Problem with that though is that most developers' idea of difficulty is to make enemies stronger and make you weaker. That's not difficult. The enemies are still programmed the same or more are added. It doesn't change the way they approach you. Instead, what this does is make you take cover longer, and that's where it tricks you into thinking that this is harder when it's not. Having to take cover and shoot patiently isn't hard. It's just a waste of your fucking time and frustrates the player. It gives off this feeling of an artificial difficulty that asks you to be patient instead of testing your skills. Of course, just cause games were harder back then doesn't necessarily make them better. That's not the point of this first video. The point I'm making here is that it's okay to have easy games. Hell, look at Kirby. It's been around for ages, but it's one of the easiest fucking games around. But it's fun. Why? Because unlike Skyrim, Kirby has been known to be an easy series. Kirby's design makes sense. The game was never intended to be difficult to anyone. Instead, Kirby presents a certain aesthetic to it that entices you and creates a feeling of comfort and relaxation. In other words, it's not intended to be played in a difficult way, nor should it. But with the Elder Scrolls series, it's the opposite. The original games were intended to give you a sense of adventure, growth, and freedom that was delivered to the player through its challenging design, and that's where the problem lies with the modern sequels. Everything that these games were made to be are now simplistic and uninspiring. My motivation for these types of games doesn't come from the story or action, although it may for other players, not for me. For me, it comes from the challenge. The challenge is what pushes the player to go through or stay up late at night and say, I'll give that one last try. It's not like simplifying certain aspects to a game is a bad thing, but what works for some doesn't necessarily always work for others. Developers shouldn't have to restrict themselves and hold back what they intended for their art to originally be. Let us die over and over. Let us learn our lesson from failing. Let us have a challenge. The market is now larger than ever for games, but these games don't belong in the same category as, say, Call of Duty. They belong where they were intended to be. I don't want to keep you guys sitting there for 30 minutes, so this video will be a 3-parter. My back hurts and the next part hasn't even been scripted yet. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can go ahead and check out my last few videos and hit that subscribe button. Till then, this has been Freetanga, and I'll see you soon.